Good evening. In this first chapter of Tesol Colombia, I'm pleased to introduce you to Dr. Jozef Colpaert from the University of Antwerp. Dr. Colpaert is the editor of the journal, the recognized journal, Computer Assisted Language Learning. Professor Colpaert, welcome to Universidad de La Sabana.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to start by our first question, right? In this opportunity, I'm going to ask you, since your field and your area, your main area of research is technology, my first question is related to the use of technology in language learning. Why should teachers conduct research in language teaching supported by technologies?
Well, the reason is that in our field, computer-assisted language learning, there is not enough knowledge available in order to inform teachers exactly what they should do with technology, how they should use it in the classroom. So this theory that has been built up in our young discipline does not allow us to do that. So we need to build more knowledge. And one of the ways to build knowledge is by involving teachers, because the general theory lacks generalization and adaptation to the local context. So the only way for us to really, in the long term, build knowledge is to involve teachers. But that requires them, of course, to make even more efforts. And this is why we have to think of ways to involve them in research so that they make the effort, but at the same time that they can see the reward of that effort in having better results themselves in the classroom.
Okay, so it's a learning by doing and by researching approach. Thank you very much. The second question, my second question is, once teachers undertake research in call, as you were proposing it, they might face several challenges. What are the main ones for you? And please, if you could also suggest ways to overcome them.
Well, of course, as I said, our field is a very young field. And the current context at universities is a context of what I call academic meritocracy, is that the evaluation of research, the evaluation of academic work is now geared towards formal criteria, administrative work, so that the real research becomes endangered. The real activities we need to get our discipline respected as a full-flown research field could be stimulated. There's also the fact of the visibility or the image of CAL in the world. When people think language teachers also, when they think about technology, they are immediately influenced by hypes, by myths, by perhaps exaggerated expectations, or on the other hand, inhibitions. So it's very difficult for them to see the real role that technology could play in the language learning process. Now, a third aspect is when they finally are willing to be involved in research and to conduct the research themselves, there is the problem of which method can they use. And they can only fall back on the traditional research method, so they start falling back on treatment analysis, experimental research, which in my view is far too early, because we have to first build a good car before you can test it.
Before you can drive it.
Before you can drive it and test it if it's a good car. So how can we overcome these three challenges? I would say we need to build or to try to build knowledge, as I said, but we also should try to increase the visibility, the credibility of our field, and this can only be done, in my view, by developing our own way of working with the teachers. And this has been, as this conference, a unique feature that teachers show they are present here and they show they are interested in research, and vice versa. So it's not a top-down approach that will solve our problem. It's combined approach, but especially it's this bottom-up approach where if we want to learn something, it all depends on context. So we need to talk with many teachers, and we will need to build more information channels or platforms or events like this one in order to get that information through. The role of theory, top down from universities to teachers, is only to inspire them and give them new ways of looking at things. That's the way I see the interaction between teacher research and university research.
Thank you very much. It involves again, as you mentioned and as you highlighted, shift in the type of mindsets and paradigms that teachers have as well. Okay, I would like to close with some reflections about your latest papers. In your latest papers, you discuss the concept of educational engineering. Can you tell us about it, please?
Yes, very shortly, because that's a long story. I had to invent a new name for a new approach, meaning engineering is the strategy to apply when not enough knowledge is available, as I said. So we have to take a risk. We have to formulate hypotheses and validate them. And this is a new way of working in education and also in research. Education engineering is in the first place an instructional design model geared towards assisting teachers, supporting teachers in creating optimal learning environments, the best possible learning environments for the students, but also for themselves. And secondly, it is also a research method, and it's a completely new research method because the research activity is completely different than the traditional methods mentioned in the classic Bibles like Cohen and Mannion.
Last but not least, then does it mean that educational engineering has to do with design-based research at some point?
Well, I'm still working on that aspect. In the last chapter of the book I'm writing, we could consider educational engineering as a kind of design-based research. But the main difference is that design-based research falls back on those traditional research methods, while, as I said, the real new activity is different. But they are both real-world, iterative, cyclic movements, which is interesting, etc. But design-based research itself might also become what I have called a blurred ontology, meaning that people understand different concepts when they mention it.
Thank you very much. Okay, I would like to close with your impressions and perceptions on our event.
Well, in the first place, I'm impressed by the number of participants, also by the quality of the organization. I really have the feeling that this is a historical moment, that this first conference, the Tesol Colombia, I hope many will follow, but not only by the association or the link with the association, but also because it might be in the current context that it's a historical moment. The teacher training in English and English in general for the population of a country is extremely important for its further development. And I believe that this conference can be one of the instruments used not only by the university but also by policy in general to stimulate the language proficiency of the entire population, so that Colombia can become a pole for industrial activity, a pole for tourist activity and cultural activity.
Thank you, Professor Colpaert, for your contributions. I'm Liliana Cuesta from the Department of Foreign Languages and Cultures. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice stay in our event and in Bogota as well. Thank you very much.